Now, it might not look that cold because it's kind of sunny, but it is actually so cold out that my hair that was slightly wet from the shower actually froze. Like the curls were frozen. So I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be standing out here, but anyway, let's get into the video. I saw a clip of Martin Scorsese talking about the differences between cinema and theater because he never liked to be constrained to that three-act structure. And so what he said is that movies, in contrast to plays, are made up of scenes, which make up sequences, which then make up your story. And because of this philosophy of not having three acts, but just using as many sequences as you need to tell your story, his films are often these long, grand, sweeping epics that span genres and decades. They're big stories. But an interesting contrast to that type of storytelling is that his films often end in a very small way. Instead of a big sweeping climax or a big finale, it's a feeble whimper to close off this long tale that we've just borne witness to. And I think that the best example of this in his filmography is The Irishman. Now, The Irishman follows the story of a hitman. He's telling his story, looking back on his life and seeing the decisions that he's made. And it spans literally his entire life until he's a very, very old man. And it really is one of the most profound and beautiful and tragic films that I've ever seen. And so there's just three individual things that I wanted to look at in the film, just kind of examine and how it's impacted me. It's really cold. I'm going to put my hood on. The first is just the humanity that's displayed here. And I think this is directly a contrast to films like Goodfellas, which are meant to show the lavishness and the glitzy, glamorous life of being a gangster so you can get that crash by the end. By contrast, The Irishman focuses on this character of Frank Sheeran and on his own personal motivations for joining the mob. And his motivations really aren't about pride or about clout. He wants to be part of something that's bigger than himself, but it's really just about earning money to support his family and about these friendships that he's made. Indeed, the most important thing about the film is really the friendships that he has with these men in the mob. And what's really interesting is that throughout his life as a hitman, again, his personal motivations aren't about ego or about pride. He goes about doing his things, trying to support his family, but in the meantime is destroying these relationships one by one. We see his daughter, Peggy, watching him do these violent things and really just watching with disgust and becoming further and further away from her father as a result. And that kind of leads into the second thing, which is the idea of false promises. Because there are moments in this movie where you start to get this Goodfellas-esque experience. You got these big explosions. You see how Frank is really, really good at what he does. He is a phenomenal hitman. He knows how to do a job well. And sometimes there is a lot of fanfare involved. But every time we get these sequences of a building blowing up or taxis being thrown into the water, he walks away from these crimes unsatisfied. Even when he is relatively proud of the job that he's done, even though he knows that he is good at what he does, he walks away unhappy. We see his daughter watching him at every turn, becoming more and more disgusted with her father's actions, and he's becoming disgusted with himself as well. We get this promise of a big, glamorous life that he wants, relationships that are going to make him a better person, but in reality, he walks away unhappy every single time. And the final thing that I wanted to discuss is just that of regret. And I think this is the most important thing about the film. This is really the crux of the narrative. Because by the end of the film, when he murders his best friend, he does this terrible, terrible crime. He kind of lives out the rest of his days in this numbness. And, he and his other colleagues, they get arrested, they serve time for their crimes. They're kind of living in prison together, just becoming old. And one by one, his friends and family, they die. They leave him. And he's left completely by himself. Just wondering why he has continued to live while everyone else that he ever loved and cared about is gone. And the regret that he feels, the remorse that he feels for the terrible things that he's done, it slowly morphs into a cold, unfeeling numbness until he can't feel anything anymore. He prays as much as he can. He goes to confession, but he says that he doesn't feel anything. He doesn't even feel sorry for the things that he's done. He's incapable of feeling. His regret has reached such an extent that his heart is closed and his conscience is seared. He tries to go back to his children, to his family. He tries to find acceptance, but everyone has rejected him, just like he rejected them his entire life. The final scene is that small whimper of an ending. He asks the priest to leave the door open. And perhaps that's him hoping that his daughter will walk through that door someday. Perhaps it's just him hoping for some abstract concept of a second chance. But he doesn't really believe that it'll come. Like every Scorsese movie, The Irishman is a cautionary tale. It's a parable. And as such, as tragic as it is, we're meant to apply it to our own lives. Because this film contains an incredibly important truth, which is this: we don't regret the things that we don't do. We'll regret the things that we did. And so we have to make the right decisions now so that we can look back on our life when we're old with a smile on our face instead of a tear in our eye. La da 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 da. I'm frozen in this cold.